If you haven't watched part 1, I strongly suggest you go back and watch it first. What you're about to hear will not make sense without it. Link is in the description. Now, let me tell you about my girlfriend and how Rose was already hunting her long before we ever met. My name doesn't matter. I was born in Bosnia, grew up in a nearby country in the Balkans, and came to the United States over 6 years ago. My girlfriend, let's call her Lila, was born in India, grew up in Kenya until she was 3, and then moved to Canada. I met her a little over a year ago. We've been together since. And now, we are both being stalked by the same woman. A woman who smiles with red lipstick and carries an orange. Lila's first encounter happened on a plane. She was a flight attendant for Air Canada, and about 6 years ago, she was working a regular 2-hour flight. Everything was routine. The cabin was calm. Seatbelt signs went off, and she got up to serve drinks. Halfway through her section, she stopped, because sitting in the aisle seat was a woman who made every hair on her body stand up. The woman had a grin stretched across her face, a wide, unnatural frozen smile. Her skin was pale, deathly pale, and she was staring, not at anything in particular, just at Lila. Unblinking, Lila offered her a drink. She got no response. She offered her snacks. Nothing, only a wider smile. Then the woman spoke. "I have something for you." The voice was wrong. It didn't belong to a woman her age. It was higher, younger, like a teenager, playful. But underneath the playfulness, there was something deeply, deeply wrong. Lila had dealt with difficult passengers before. She kept her composure. "Yeah? What would that be, ma'am?" The woman's smile vanished for a split second. Then her jaw clenched tight, and the words came out fast. So fast they almost blurred together. "Don't patronize me, you bitch." The grin returned. Her teeth began grinding behind those red lips. Slow, deliberate, like a machine warming up. This was the red flag. When passengers turn aggressive, attendants are trained to disengage. "All right, well, you have a pleasant rest of the flight, ma'am." But as Lila turned to walk away, the woman whispered, "I have this for you." And from behind her back, she produced an orange. She held it out, arm perfectly still, that mechanical puppet posture I knew all too well. Never moving a muscle on her face. Still that teenager's voice. "No thanks," Lila said firmly. "Oh, but you should. Or one day, you know." One day. Lila walked away and didn't look back. The woman didn't bother her for the rest of the flight. A few days later, Lila was home. Her mother asked how her flight was. Lila smiled and said, "Good, other than one really crazy lady." Her mom wanted to hear more. So Lila started telling the story. The creepy smile, the grinding teeth, the strange voice. And then Lila said the word orange. Her mother started crying. Lila froze. She had never seen her mother react like that. Not to a word. Not to a story about a flight. Her mother sat down, covered her face, and through her tears, she told Lila something she had never heard before. When Lila was a baby in Kenya, she had woken her parents up several times in the middle of the night with loud, hysterical crying. Every time they rushed into her room, they found the same thing, an orange, sitting right next to her in the crib. But every door in the house was locked, every window sealed. There was no way in, and there was no way out. It kept happening, again and again. An orange in the crib, a screaming baby, locked doors. Her parents were terrified. They moved the crib into their bedroom. They installed security cameras. They thought that would be enough. It wasn't. On Lila's 3rd birthday, her parents woke up to find an orange resting on their daughter's chest. In their room, right next to their bed. They checked the cameras, hands trembling. The footage showed a woman opening the front door, a door that was locked, walking silently through the house, entering their bedroom, placing an orange on a sleeping child. And then she just stood there for an entire hour, her head tilted to the left, looking down at the baby, smiling. Lila's parents called the police. The police found nothing. No fingerprints. No trace. No identity. No explanation. The family was desperate. Some of their relatives were already living in Canada and had been urging them to move. This was the final push. They packed everything and left Kenya behind. They left the woman with the orange behind. Or so they thought. Lila was shattered after hearing this story. She didn't eat. She didn't speak to anyone. For days, she was a ghost of herself. Eventually, she convinced herself it was a coincidence. A terrible, unexplainable coincidence. And she moved on. Years passed without incident. No orange. No Grin. No voice. Lila built her life. She flew across the world. She was free. Until 1 month before she met me. Lila was returning from a Hong Kong trip. A long transatlantic flight. The crew checked into a hotel, and everyone had their own room. Lila was on the 3rd floor. She'd been drinking that night. Heavily. She passed out around 1 in the morning. At 4 a.m., she heard a knock. Then another. Then another. They weren't loud. They weren't fast. They were slow. Deliberate. Patient. Just loud enough to pull her out of a drunken sleep. She dragged herself out of bed, thinking it was one of her equally drunk crew members. Without thinking, she opened the door. And there she stood. The room behind Lila was dark, but the television was on. The cold blue light of the screen spilled past her and landed directly on the face of the woman in the hallway. It illuminated the grin, the bright red lipstick, the pearly white teeth, the pale, pale skin, the head tilted gently to the left. You know how when you're drunk and something terrifying happens, a car accident, police lights, a scream in the dark, and you sober up instantly? That is what happened to Lila. Every trace of alcohol evaporated from her blood in a single heartbeat. She let out a sound, not a scream, something worse, a helpless, involuntary whimper of pure terror. They stood there face to face. Then Rose began to rock, back and forth, slowly. With each backward motion, her white dress shifted, revealing bright red shoes underneath. Her teeth were grinding, that awful mechanical grinding. Then she reached behind her back and pulled out an orange. "What do you want from me?" Lila begged. Rose kept rocking, kept grinding, kept smiling. "Please, just leave me alone. I don't have anything." Then Rose spoke, in that teenager's voice. Only this time, it was different, lighter, almost cheerful, like a happy child on Christmas morning. "You take it. You take it now. He will too." Something snapped inside Lila. Some survival instinct, some primal defiance. She grabbed the orange from Rose's hand and hurled it over her head, down the dark hallway. "Get the fuck out of here, and take this shit with you, you freak." And for the very first time in all these years and all these encounters, Rose stopped smiling. The white teeth disappeared behind thick red lips. The playful tilt of her head straightened. She stood perfectly upright, perfectly still, and when she spoke again, the teenager's voice was gone, replaced by something far worse. An adult's voice, a real voice, cold, clear, and conscious. "I will see you too soon." At the time, Lila didn't know who you two meant. She assumed it was her and her mother. She had no idea that somewhere out there, a man from Bosnia was being haunted by the exact same woman, holding the exact same orange, wearing the exact same smile. That brings us to today. If you watched part 1, you already know about the break-in. Our room, the orange cut in half on the bedsheet. My childhood song playing on repeat on a laptop that was turned off and password protected. A desktop background changed to a photo from my childhood that wasn't even saved on the computer. We've talked to the police. They're investigating, but they still say it's not serious enough. Not serious enough. Someone broke into our home, rearranged our belongings, left a halved orange like some kind of ritual offering, and hacked into my personal computer. And it's not serious enough. I am personally just shocked. I never believed anything like this was possible. If one of you had written this story, I wouldn't have believed a word of it. And I can't blame you if you don't believe me. But this is real. This is happening. The thing that fucks with my head the most is this. Rose knew my girlfriend before she knew me. Everything up until now could have been explained in some logical way. A stalker, a mentally ill woman, a cult member. But how did Rose know that Lila and I would end up together? She was haunting Lila in Kenya. As a baby, 20 years before we met. She was haunting me in Bosnia, thousands of miles away. How did she know we would find each other? Were they somehow responsible for bringing us together? And if so, why? For what possible benefit? I don't have answers. Neither does Lila. We are both scared. We are both exhausted. We are both running out of reasons to stay calm. If you have any idea what this might be, I am begging you. Tell me, because right now, all I have is fear, and an orange I never asked for. For the next development in this story, please watch